Is using ChatGPT considered plagiarism? Since the AI-powered chatbot has shaken up the academic world, this question has been on the minds of many students and teachers. If you use ChatGPT to create your academic assignments, do you run the risk of being accused of plagiarism and failing your subject? Today we will delve into this question in detail so that you know exactly what you can do with ChatGPT and what you should avoid. And now, without further ado, welcome to Shribe. Many thanks to Scribe for sponsoring this video. More about Scribe later. In order for us to form any opinion about text generated by ChatGPT, we first need to define what plagiarism is. The University of Oxford, for example, defines it in their university policy as the copying or paraphrasing of other people's work or ideas into your own work without full acknowledgement. This definition can serve as the basis for a classification of AI-generated text. From my point of view, it makes sense to distinguish between three forms of using ChatGPT. First, using ChatGPT for grammar and spelling checks. Let's say you write your own text and use scientific sources that you cite as usual. Now you ask ChatGPT to optimize this text you have just written. The AI program could, for example, check grammar and spelling, find synonyms, or paraphrase the text to make it sound more scientific. Is this considered plagiarism? No. You are the intellectual author of the text and have indicated the references on which you base your argument correctly. This is not plagiarism. Grammar check software or human editors have existed for ages and do not lead to plagiarism either. Second, you paraphrase text from another source using ChatGPT. Of course, you could also come up with the idea of having ChatGPT rewrite a text from another source. Now it depends on whether you make the original source visible or not. This was the decisive criterion before ChatGPT and still is. Let's look at two cases. First, you indicate the original source. Paraphrasing is a useful technique of working scientifically, and with correct indication of the original source, it is nothing other than an indirect quotation. If you use ChatGPT in this way, you are not committing plagiarism. However, you should ask yourself to what extent ChatGPT can help you in this case. A meaningful indirect quote is perhaps 1 to 3 sentences long. Paraphrasing longer texts and thus several lines of thought from the original author makes little sense. This is because if you copy more than one thought from another source, you are leaving the realm of what is considered good academic work. After all, one criterion for evaluating scientific texts is your ability to develop your own lines of thought and unique arguments. Case 2. You do not indicate the original source. If you have ChatGPT paraphrase text from another source, and you do not indicate the original author, then of course this is considered plagiarism. But now we come to the most exciting case. 3. You use ChatGPT to generate new text. This is what's special about ChatGPT, right? If you now present a text created by AI as your own, are you committing plagiarism? Let us recall the definition of plagiarism. The following questions arise. Can we consider ChatGPT as other people? Is using ChatGPT intellectual property theft? And is copyright maybe being violated? You are welcome to disagree with me in the comments, but I think the answer to the first question is no. An artificial intelligence is not a person. This is precisely the decisive characteristic of an AI. That is why no plagiarism can take place here, as it used to be defined. The answer to the second and third question is not quite clear. After all, ChatGPT also uses sources, for example from the internet, but does not indicate them. If you were to do the same work, you would have to indicate these sources in order not to commit plagiarism. Therefore, it would be advisable to ask ChatGPT about the sources on which the generated text is based. Then check them manually and indicate them when using the generated text. But an even better way would be to limit one's use of ChatGPT to optimizing language and avoiding the risk of generating text without knowing its sources. We have seen that you can use ChatGPT in different ways. How you use it determines whether you are plagiarizing or not. But when evaluating academic assignments, plagiarism is not the only criterion. What do I mean by that? You can use ChatGPT as a tool for your assignments and not commit plagiarism, but still violate the university policy. Before we continue with what that means, let me just say a few words about the sponsor of this video, Shribe. If you are looking for a proofreading service or plagiarism check for your scientific work, I can wholeheartedly recommend the team at Shribe. Just have a look at shribe.com and send me a short email to info@shribe.eu for an exclusive coupon code. Most universities have not made up their minds about how to deal with ChatGPT. Some have dabbled around with ChatGPT scanners, which is total nonsense in my opinion. With the help of mathematical models, these scanners can give examiners a probability of whether a text was generated by AI or not. In addition, the company behind ChatGPT, OpenAI, has also introduced a plagiarism scanner that can detect ChatGPT texts. These scanners can always be circumvented with certain tricks, and a development in this direction would be a constant arms race, which the software developers would probably laugh about the most. The University of Oxford, for example, made up their mind. They introduced a new plagiarism policy that states the following: plagiarism is presenting work or ideas from another source as your own, with or without consent of the original author, by incorporating it into your work without full acknowledgement. All published and unpublished material, whether in manuscript, printed or in electronic form, is covered under this definition, as is the use of material generated wholly or in part through the use of artificial intelligence. Okay, this is as clear as it can get. But what happened here? The University of Oxford simply changed the definition of plagiarism. I think a better way would be to keep those things separate. Instead of changing the definition of plagiarism, they could just introduce an AI policy. Other universities might disagree with this definition of plagiarism and allow the use of AI. But if we follow the Oxford model, nobody agrees upon the definition of plagiarism at one point. Universities could choose a very different path. Banning ChatGPT could be considered counterproductive. How can you prepare students for a world with AI if you ban it from universities? Things like ChatGPT could still be allowed as a tool, but the exam formats might change. There could be more oral exams or less scientific papers, which then have to be empirical, for example. What do you think? Should using ChatGPT be considered plagiarism? Please let me know in the comments. The key takeaway concerning your academic assignments is to check the AI policy of your university, if there is one, because policy and plagiarism are not the same.